My husband told me he didn't want to adopt my daughter because he doesn't love her like his biological kids. Now he's horrified when my daughter calls him by his name and not dad. He said the sentence. She heard it. And the hearing converted the name she had chosen for him back into the name he was given at birth because names are earned and the earning can be revoked by a single sentence heard through a wall a child was supposed to be sleeping behind. My husband Nathan and I have been married for 4 years. I have a daughter from my previous relationship, Mia. She is 9. Nathan and I have 2 sons together. Caleb is 3. James is 1. Mia has called Nathan dad since she was 6. Nobody told her to. She made the decision the way children make decisions about language, by feeling the word before speaking it and deciding the word fits the person, and the fitting is the evidence, and the evidence is sufficient because children don't need contracts. They need consistency. And Nathan was consistent. He drove her to school. He helped with homework. He made her pancakes on Saturday mornings because Mia once said, "Dad makes the best pancakes." And the sentence was the ceremony, and the pancakes were the vows. Then Caleb was born. Then James was born. And something shifted. Not dramatically. Geologically. 3 weeks ago, my mother was visiting. She was in the living room with Nathan after the kids went to bed. I was at the counter. The wall behind me shares with Mia's bedroom. The living room does not share a wall with anything except the conversation happening inside it. My mother said to Nathan, "Have you thought about formally adopting Mia? She calls you dad. It would mean a lot to her." Nathan said, "I've thought about it. I don't think I'm going to." My mother said, "Why not?" Nathan said, "I love Mia, but it's different. Caleb and James, they're mine. Biologically, the connection is different. I can't explain it. When I look at Caleb, I see myself. When I look at Mia, I see her father." He said, "I love her, but I don't love her like them. And adopting her would mean making a legal promise that I feel about her the way I feel about them, and I don't. It wouldn't be honest." He said it to my mother, in my living room, on a Tuesday night, while Mia was in her bedroom on the other side of the wall, and the wall is not soundproof, and I was standing at the sink and I heard every word. I didn't know she heard it until the next morning. Saturday, pancake morning. Nathan was at the stove. Mia came downstairs. She sat at the table. Nathan said, "Morning bug, pancakes in 5. Mia said, "Thank you, Nathan." Nathan stopped flipping. He turned around. He said, "What did you call me?" Mia said, "Nathan. That's your name." The word Nathan in a 9-year-old's mouth sounded like a door closing, not slamming, closing, with the controlled, deliberate motion of a person who has decided the door should be closed, and the closing is not a tantrum but a decision. Nathan looked at me. I looked at my coffee. I said, "She heard you." He said, "Heard what?" I said, "Last night, through the wall. She heard what you said to my mother about the adoption." His face went through 3 stages: confusion, memory, the specific horror of a man who has just realized that the thing he said to one person was received by another, and the other is 4 feet tall. He crouched next to Mia at the table. He said, "Mia, she said, "It's okay. I understand. I'm not yours like Caleb and James. You said it. I heard it. You don't have to say it again." She was not crying. She was composed. The kind of composed that a 9-year-old achieves when the crying happened in the dark at some point between the sentence and the sunrise. Nathan said, "Mia, I love you." She said, "I know, just not like them." She picked up her fork. She ate the pancakes. She didn't say another word. Nathan has been trying to repair it for 3 weeks. He has been driving her to school, helping with homework, making pancakes, doing all the things the word dad was built from, but the word is gone. She says Nathan, at dinner, in the car, at bedtime. "Good night, Nathan." Nathan came to me last night. He said, "She won't call me dad." I said, "You told her you don't love her the same way." He said, "I didn't mean it like that." I said, "How did you mean it?" He said, "I meant the biological connection is different, not the love. The love is the same. The connection is different." I said, "Nathan, a 9-year-old doesn't parse the difference between connection and love. You said, I don't love her like them." She heard, "I don't love her like them." The parsing is yours. The hearing is hers. He said, "How do I fix it?" I said, "You adopt her." He looked at me. I said, "You want her to call you dad. She wants to call you dad." The sentence took the word away. The adoption gives it back. Not because paper makes love real, because the paper tells a 9-year-old that the man who said not like them changed his mind, and the changing is on a document, and documents don't go through walls. He was quiet for a long time. He said, "I'll call the attorney tomorrow. But there is one thing Mia said to me yesterday that I have not told Nathan, because telling him would break something in him that I think needs to break slowly, rather than all at once." She came to me after school. She said, "Mom, I miss saying dad." I said, "You can say it again whenever you're ready." She said, "I can't, because when I say it now, I hear not like them behind it, and the not like them is louder than the dad. I need the loud part to get quiet before the dad part can come back." She is 9. She is waiting for a sentence to lose volume inside her own head before she can speak a word she used to say without thinking. Over the next several days, I watched Nathan turn into a man running a campaign for a job he already had and lost. He volunteered for every single school pickup, not just the ones on his schedule, all of them. He bought her a new art set, a nice one, the kind with the colored pencils that blend. She had mentioned wanting one weeks ago, a passing comment at dinner, and Nathan had stored it the way people store ammunition for a moment they know is coming. He suggested a movie night on Thursday, and told Mia she could pick whatever she wanted. She picked an animated movie about a fox. They sat on the couch together. When the movie ended, she looked at Nathan and said, "Thank you, Nathan. That was really fun." His jaw did the thing, the tightening, the small movement along the side of his face that happens when a person is holding something behind their teeth that they can't say. I could see him keeping score, not on paper, in his head. The mental math of a man who believed that enough deposits would eventually unlock the word he wanted. And here is the thing that made it so hard to watch. Mia was not cold. She was not punishing him. She talked to him at dinner. She laughed at his jokes. She was a polite, kind, normal 9-year-old girl who was treating her stepfather with exactly the warmth and respect that a stepfather gets when a stepfather has not been promoted to father. The politeness was what made it so bad, because if she had been angry, he could have waited it out. But this was not a tantrum. This was composure. And composure does not have an expiration date. He came to me in the bedroom that night. He sat on the edge of the bed. He said, "I've been doing everything. Everything I've always done. More than I've always done." She still won't say it. I said, "You can't buy back a word with a movie night, Nathan." He looked at me like I had said something unfair. He said, "Then what am I supposed to do?" I called the attorney. "The adoption is moving. What else does she need?" I said, "She needs the sentence to get quiet. You can't make a sentence get quiet it by being louder. My mother called the next day. Mariah's name showed up on my phone. She said, I keep thinking if I hadn't brought up the adoption, none of this would have happened. I said, Mom, you asked a question. He gave an answer. The answer was the problem, not the question. She said, has Mia said anything to you? I paused. I thought about Mia in her bedroom after school, telling me she missed saying dad, the volume metaphor. I thought about how a 9-year-old had built a system for processing grief that most adults never figure out, and the system was sound, and the system was hers, and the system was not mine to hand to my mother over a phone call. I said, she's processing. That was all. After I hung up, I sat in the driveway for another 5 minutes, and I started to wonder if I was doing the right thing by keeping Mia's words from Nathan. I told myself I was protecting Mia's privacy. I told myself that sharing her words without her permission would be a betrayal. But then a quieter thought came up. Maybe I was also protecting myself. Maybe I was holding Mia's words back because giving them to Nathan would mean watching him hear them and react. And the reaction might not be what I needed it to be. He might cry and say the right thing, or he might say something that made it worse, or he might take the information and turn it into another strategy, another gesture on the scoreboard. So I kept the letter unmailed. Nathan scheduled the first meeting with the attorney for the following Tuesday. We went together. The attorney explained the process, the timeline, the home study, the court appearance. Nathan sat in the chair next to me, nodding at each step, but I could see his knee bouncing under the table. Then the attorney looked at Nathan and said, can you describe your relationship with the child you're seeking to adopt? Nathan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He finally said, she's my daughter. The attorney said, and what prompted you to pursue formal adoption now? The silence was long. It lasted long enough that I felt it in my chest. Nathan said, because I made a mistake and I need to fix it. The rest of the meeting was paperwork and scheduling. We drove home in silence. I let the silence sit for 10 minutes. Then I said, when the attorney asked you why now, you said you needed to fix a mistake. Nathan kept his eyes on the road. He said, that's true. I said, is that the only reason? He said, what other reason would there be? I said, that you want to be her legal father because you are her father, not because you said something wrong and this is the correction. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. He said, it's both. I said, Mia will know the difference. Kids always know when something is guilt and when something is want. He didn't respond. I thought about the word fix and how it is not the same word as claim, and how the difference between the two is the difference between a man who wants the problem to stop and a man who wants the girl to be his. That evening I went upstairs to check on Mia. Her door was open. She was at her desk with the new art set, drawing. I walked over and looked at the paper. She had drawn a picture of our family. 5 people standing in a row on green grass under a blue sky. Me on the left, Mia next to me, Caleb next to Mia, James next to Caleb, and then a 5th figure. Standing a little to the right, just a small gap, maybe half an inch of white paper between the 4th figure and the 5th. I said, who's that? Mia didn't look up from her coloring. She said, Nathan. I said, why is he over there? She said, because that's where he put himself. I sat down on her bed. I did not correct the drawing. I did not say Nathan loves you. I did not say he's trying. I did not say he's going to adopt you. I said, you're a really good artist. She looked at me and smiled. I took it downstairs after she went to bed. I put it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a strawberry. 5 figures on green grass, 4 together and 1 with a gap. Nathan found it later that night. He was standing in front of the fridge with a glass of water in his hand, not drinking it, just holding it, staring at Mia's drawing. He stared at it for a long time. I could see the exact moment he noticed the gap because his shoulders changed. They didn't drop. They didn't tense. They just sort of settled, the way a body settles when it receives information it already knew but hadn't seen drawn in colored pencil by the hand of a 9-year-old who used to stand right next to him in every picture she ever made. The gap was not Mia's imagination. It was Mia's perception, and the perception was built from a sentence said through a wall on a Tuesday night. 2 weeks went by. The adoption paperwork was moving, and something about the way Nathan did everything changed. The performance part of it stopped. The extra. The loudness. He stopped buying things. He stopped suggesting special outings. He stopped looking at her after every interaction with that expression on his face. The one that was waiting for the word, the way a dog waits for a treat. He just did the thing and let the thing exist without attaching an expectation to the end of it. And I noticed something. At dinner, when Nathan passed Mia the bread without making a production out of it, when he asked her about her day and listened to the answer and didn't try to turn the listening into a demonstration, Mia's shoulders dropped about half an inch. Not enough that anyone who wasn't watching for it would see it, but I was watching for it. The gap was still there, but the gap was not growing. Evelyn came over on a Wednesday afternoon. She is my closest friend. I told her everything. The sentence, the wall, the name change, the attorney, the drawing on the fridge, the thing Mia said about missing the word dad. She listened. Then she set her mug down and said, can I ask you something hard? I said, go ahead. She said, are you punishing him? I said, what? She said, you're holding on to what Mia said. The thing about missing the word dad. You haven't told Nathan, and I get why, but are you holding it back because it's Mia's to share, or because giving it to him would be giving him hope and you're not sure he deserves hope yet? I didn't answer. I opened my mouth and then I closed it, and the closing was the answer. Evelyn said, because that little girl told you she misses calling him dad. That means the door isn't closed. Nathan doesn't know the door isn't closed. You're the only one who knows, and you're standing in front of it. When I walked in the front door, I could hear Nathan's voice coming from the living room. He was reading a picture book to Caleb and James, and Mia was on the couch, not next to Nathan, not in the reading circle, but in the room. She had her legs tucked under her and she was pretending to look at something on her tablet, but the tablet screen was dark. She was listening. Nathan finished the book. Caleb said, again, daddy, again. Nathan looked at Mia. He didn't ask her to come sit closer. He didn't make a big thing of it. He just said, Mia, you want to pick the next one? Mia hesitated. Then she got up. She walked to the bookshelf in the corner. She pulled one out. She brought it to Nathan and handed it to him and sat back down on the couch without a word. Nathan looked at the cover. I knew the book. It was a story about a bear and a rabbit, and I had not seen it in 2 years because it belonged to a time before Caleb, before James, before the sentence. It was the book Nathan used to read to Mia when she was 6, when she first started calling him dad. Nathan's eyes went red, the stage before crying. He opened the book. He started reading. His voice cracked on the second page, the page where the bear tells the rabbit that the forest is better because the rabbit is in it. She didn't look at him. She pulled her knees up to her chest and wrapped her arms around them, and she listened the way she used to listen when she was 6. That That night, after the kids were in bed, I got into bed next to Nathan. I knew what I was going to do. Evelyn's words had unlocked something. I said, Mia told me something last week. Nathan went still. The stillness of a person who has stopped breathing because the next sentence might be the most important sentence they have ever heard. I said, she said she misses saying dad. His breathing changed. I said, she said she can't say it yet because when she tries, she hears not like them behind it. She said the sentence needs to get quiet before the word can come back. Nathan put his hands over his face. He pressed his palms into his eyes and he stayed like that for a long time. When he took his hands away, his face was wet. He said, she misses it? I said, yes. He said, she wants to say it? I said, yes, but she needs it to be safe again. And safe means the sentence has to stop being true. He said, it was never true. I said, then you need to make it untrue in a way she can hear, not through a wall, to her face. He lay there for a while. Then he said, I need to tell you something. He said, when the attorney asked me why I wanted to adopt Mia, I said it was to fix a mistake. That wasn't honest. I waited. He said, the truth is I've been scared since Caleb was born. The biological thing. It wasn't that I loved Mia less. It was that the biological connection scared me because it was so automatic, so physical, and I didn't understand it. And because I didn't understand it, I thought it was more. I thought automatic meant deeper. He paused. He said, but Mia chose me. She chose the word. And choosing is harder than automatic. Choosing is what she did every single morning for 3 years. And I called the automatic thing more because I was too scared to admit that a 6-year-old girl made a braver decision about love than I have ever made in my life. I lay in the dark next to my husband and I let the sentence fill the room. He said, I don't want to adopt her to fix a mistake. I want to adopt her because she chose me and I need to choose her back. And the choosing needs to be loud enough to make the sentence quiet. The following Saturday, pancake morning. Nathan was at the stove. The room smelled like butter and batter. Mia came downstairs. She was wearing the oversized shirt she sleeps in. She sat down at her spot. Nathan set a plate of pancakes in front of her. 2, stacked, the way she likes them. But he didn't go back to the stove. He turned around and pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. Nathan said, Mia, I need to talk to you about something. Mia looked at him. Her face went careful. She said, okay. Nathan said, 3 weeks ago, your grandmother asked me about adopting you, and I said something, and you heard it through your bedroom wall. Mia said, I know what you said. Nathan said, I know you do, and I need you to hear what I'm about to say, because I'm saying it to you this time, not to someone else in another room, to you. Mia put her fork down. She put it down slowly, the way a person sets something aside when they need both hands free, not to hold anything but to be ready. Nathan said, I said the connection with Caleb and James is different because they're biological. That was true. The biological part is different, but I said it like different meant more, and it doesn't. Different means different. It doesn't mean more. It doesn't mean better. He paused. Mia was watching him with her whole face. He said, Caleb and James didn't choose me. They got me because that's how biology works. You chose me. You were 6 years old and you looked at me and you decided I was your dad. I didn't earn it. You gave it to me. And then I stood in the living room and I told your grandmother that the thing that was handed to me by accident was worth more than the thing that was given to me on purpose by a 6-year-old who had every reason not to trust another man in her life. And I was wrong. Mia's chin moved. Just a small movement. A tremble that started at the bottom of her face and tried to travel upward and was caught somewhere around her jaw. The first crack in the composure she had been carrying downstairs every morning like a shield she built in the dark. She said, you said you don't love me like them. Nathan said, I don't. Mia flinched. The flinch was fast. Nathan said, I don't love you like them because you aren't like them. You came first. You taught me how to be a dad before they existed. Everything I do for Caleb and James, I learned from you. The pancakes started with you. The bedtime reading started with you. The homework and the driving and every single thing that made me a father happened because you decided I was one. Caleb and James got a dad because you built him. Mia's eyes filled. She didn't wipe them. Nathan said, I'm adopting you. Not because I said something wrong and I'm trying to fix it. Because you are my daughter and the paper should say what the table already decided 3 years ago when you were 6 and you called me dad for the first time and I didn't deserve it and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to. He reached behind him to the counter and pulled out a folder I had not seen him put there. He opened it. Inside was the adoption paperwork. Every page that needed his signature had his signature. He slid it across the table to Mia. He said, this is me choosing you, the way you chose me, except I'm late, and I'm sorry I'm late. Mia looked at the papers. She touched the corner of the first page. She turned it and looked at the next one. His signature. She turned another. His signature. She went through every page, and on every page his name was there in ink, and the ink was the kind of permanent that sentences said through walls will never be. She looked up at him, and the composure she had carried downstairs every morning for 3 weeks, the composure that replaced the tears she used up in the dark between the sentence and the sunrise, the composure that converted Dad to Nathan, with the careful, controlled precision of a child who decided a door should be closed, that composure opened, not broke, opened, like a door that was closed by choice being opened by choice. She said, you signed all of them? He said, everyone. She said, even the one that says you're my dad forever, not just until you feel like it? He said, especially that one. She got out of her chair. She walked around the table. She stood in front of him. She was 4 feet tall and he was sitting and their eyes were level, and she looked at him the way she looked at him when she was 6, except she was not 6 anymore. She said, okay, Dad, the word. Not automatic the way it was before. Not the easy, unthinking word of a 6-year-old who felt it and said it because the feeling was enough. This was the word rebuilt, taken apart by a 9-year-old who examined every piece and decided which pieces were broken, and watched the man who broke them try to put them back together and chose, on a Saturday morning in a room that smelled like butter and batter, to put the word back in her mouth because the fixing was real, and the choosing was real, and the word was heavier now than it was before because it had been broken and repaired things carry the memory of the breaking, and the memory is not a weakness, it is a reinforcement. Nathan pulled her into his arms. He was crying. She was crying. His hand was on the back of her head and her face was in his shoulder, and he held her the way you hold something you almost lost, and the almost is the thing that makes you hold tighter. The adoption was finalized 6 weeks later. Mia asked to keep the signed papers in her room, not framed, in her nightstand drawer. I asked her why. She said, because the wall is right there, and if the wall ever carries something again, I want to open the drawer and look at the papers and remember that the papers are louder. I watched Nathan tuck her in that night. Mia said, "Good night, Dad." Nathan said, "Good night, Bug." He closed her door and stood in the hallway. He put his hand on the wall that carried the sentence. He stood there for a long time. Then he walked away. The wall is just a wall again, but I know that walls remember, and so do 9-year-olds, and so do the words that leave and come back heavier than before.